What you're looking at are the restored signs for a second time as they were recorded in 2023. And this podcast is all about the original conceptualisation of the signs, the restoration efforts, and in general, I'm hoping is a really interesting podcast for those who follow the legacy of Expo 88 as recorded by this YouTube channel. Enjoy.
But compared to their heyday, these days our Expo 88 art pieces are all but forgotten.
I'd like people to know about them and to know where they are.
There are many works of art from the Expo that we want to rescue, restore and protect and bring into the limelight again.
Once this was the bright, shining star of Expo 88. Look at it now. Neglected, dirty and covered with graffiti. All a bit sad, really. Morning Star 2 in the Botanic Gardens isn't alone. The Australian Pavilion Letters, bought by a private college at Burpengary, are rusting away, but at least they're in view.
They get your creative juices going, Ken?
Well, look, when I lived in Maclean, 1945, still a blacksmith working there. That looks absolutely fantastic, especially amongst these gum trees and with a very kindly cow having a look around the corner.
Now that cow's here to haunting those signs after 30 years of damage.
No, mate, it's great. A triumph.
Dodgy looking social media post that basically says, if you're interested in buying the Expo 88 signs, very iconic, contact Roy. Some rust, needs work. Jason, please get the word around to your contacts. This is where the World Expo 88 signs are at. This is a travesty. We need to rectify it. I don't care if they're 80% damaged. We'll do the signs up. Come on, Peter. Got to get our thinking hats on here.
Well, see, they were made of mild steel. They're a square tubular frame, which wasn't galvanised, and they're just sheet metal, and even that wasn't galvanised. So they really did have to be maintained meticulously.
Yes.
And about 95, it started to go a little bit awry when it was still in its guise of the Shaftesbury College.
And this is the second set of videos which we're doing here at the campus, and with a special focus on these letters which you can see behind me. The very famous Ken Doan designed Australian Pavilion letters from the Australian Pavilion at Brisbane's World Expo 88. And the previous set which we viewed in the previous video was the set that was at the entrance of the pavilion. And this is the set which was at the exit of the pavilion, or the protocol entrance of the pavilion. And these letters here are approximately 5.3 meters high. And along with the entrance set, they were possibly one of the most photographed icons of World Expo 88 that captured the very colourful, vibrant, celebratory atmosphere of the Expo. And for very good reason too. And in the lead up to the 25th anniversary of World Expo 88 next year, we want to use these pavilion letters as a catalyst for change, in the sense that we want to bring them back to their former glory. As you can see, the colours and the paints have faded quite a lot. We want to bring those colours back to what they were like during the Expo. And also, upon closer examination, you can see there is quite a lot of rust as well. About 10 or 20% of the entire structure of the individual letters has rusted away. So these two problems really need to be addressed very seriously. And we want to use, as I mentioned to you, the 25th anniversary of Expo 88 next year as a catalyst to restore the letters to their former glory, both in terms of their colour and in terms of their structure, make sure they have structural integrity as well. Not just for the 25th anniversary year, but for the next 25 years and beyond.
7 o'clock, just long enough to get some breaking news when it comes to Ken Doan, the World Expo signs, and Caboolture Historical Village. Greg Riddell is the manager of the village. Greg, what's the big news?
Good morning to you both. Look, the good news is we've received an email from Ken's PA and some video footage from Ken, but
Ken and his family will be joining us next Sunday morning at the unveiling, and he'll be staying at the village most of the day.
Oh, fantastic.
Just the icing on the cake for us, to be honest, Rebecca.
He couldn't resist. I think he is genuinely so flattered that you guys have put so much work into restoring the signs. And we should say, not to confuse people, so Craig and I will be broadcasting on Friday, unveiling the Australia Stack sign, but on Sunday, that's when there is a huge open day at Caboolture Historical Village, and there'll be a massive party there. Greg, you're not going to sleep for about 3 days around that, are you? The artist name Ken Doan, you immediately get this explosion of colour that comes into your eyes, because Ken Doan is an artist who likes to use every colour on the palette. So it makes sense that he was the one to paint the Australia signs at World Expo 88. Every letter, a different design, a different colour, a different shape. The signs, they sort of disappeared for the last 3 decades. They were left to deteriorate, but they've been restored. They will be unveiled. Morning.
Good morning.
What do you remember about when you were asked to do the Expo signs?
Well, look, it was a wonderful thing to do. A very distinguished Australian architect, Ken Woolley, sadly not with us anymore, he had the job of designing the entire pavilion, and he came and he talked to me about what the outside of the pavilion could be and how it could best represent Australia. So I had the concept of simply writing the word, but treating each letter in a way that it dealt with some aspect of this wonderful country. And it was thrilling to see it all. And the whole Expo 88 was a thrilling time, I think.
Were you happy with what you came up with at the time, Ken?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, it is a long time ago, but I'm extremely pleased that the letters are going to be shown again and that they've been looked after.
Yeah, because I've got to say, we were kind of shocked when we discovered that the signs had been left in a paddock. Did you have any idea what had happened to your Australia signs after Expo 88 finished?
Yeah, look, you know, over the years, every now and then somebody's got in contact with us to say, you know, where they were or what might happen and could we help in any particular way. So it's thrilling to think now that with the people at Caboolture, they've been able to completely restore them. Sadly, I'm not able to come up and see them. I will at some stage, but I think it's a terrific thing, and of course I'm very pleased about it.
Were you involved in any way in the restoration?
You know, we helped a little bit, but I think most of the work has to be done by the Queensland people.
What I love, Ken, is the Australia signs are such an important part, well, certainly of Brisbane history, and I would argue our national history. And in the restoration, we're actually going to catch up with some of the people who were involved with recreating your artwork. One of the people involved is a bloke who was an engineer in Iran who came to Australia seeking a new home, and apparently he's been extraordinary in the process and been so proud to kind of link back to that part of history that you were involved with and continue to tell, I guess, the modern Australian story?
Yeah, look at that. You know, immigration has always been, you know, part of the thing that's built this country, but I'm very thrilled to think that bloke's been involved. Sounds like a great story. I hope I get to meet him at some stage.
Do you have a favourite Expo memory, Ken Doan?
Well, look, I'm very old. I mean, I remember, I lived in Maclean on the northern coast of New South Wales, and my dad sometimes had a truck, and we used to deliver fish up to the Brisbane fish markets when Surfers Paradise was an intersection, and Brisbane was a sleepy town. So to see it in 88 and the changes that's happened in Brisbane since that time have been absolutely fabulous. Expo was a very significant part of Australian history and modern history.
What a great turn of phrase you have, Ken Doan, when Surfers Paradise was an intersection. I love that. I'm going to steal that if you don't mind. We're going to unveil the Australia Stack sign next Friday when we're broadcasting live from the Caboolture Historical Village. We're expecting thousands of people to turn up, Ken Doan, to see your signs restored to their former glory. Do you have a favourite letter? Because I'm thinking surely it's got to be the U with the sun in it, or perhaps the T that's a palm tree.
Well, you've hit upon a couple of good letters. I mean,
Yes, I have.
I think hopefully what the whole word represents is all of the things that make Australia great, all of the optimistic things.
Oh, come on, Ken. Is it like asking you to choose your favourite child? Choose a favourite letter. Come on.
Well, okay, I do like the...
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Peter Racey from Foundation Expo 88 YouTube, and we're here in Bulimba, yes?
Yes, Bulimba.
Because it's on the border, Morningside, and I'm here with Rodney Smith, Managing Director of Albert Smith Signs, a company that's been in business in Queensland now for 130 years and started out in Ann Street.
That's true.
And you've heard Norm Love talk about the history in the previous YouTube that we did when we took the plaque that Bob Minikin, that dedicated the switching on of the 4 kilometres of blue neon underneath the monorails that Bob Minikin switched on. And we've also done a YouTube with Bob Minikin talking about that particular plaque. So we're here this afternoon to talk about the expo signs, which are up at Burpengary at the Shaftesbury College. Sitting in the middle of a cow paddock. Again, there's YouTubes on that. And I just thought this afternoon we'd come along and talk to Rodney, because Rodney company built the signs, and just try and flesh out the iconicness, the uniqueness of the signs. Was it in the making of the signs? Was it the fact that they were just at Expo? Was it the fact they were done by Ken Doan? So let's have a talk to Rodney. And Rodney, you give us your thoughts about why they're iconic.
Well, I thought, first off, I don't think they're signs. I think that they're more sculptures than anything else. And when they got Ken Doan involved to create the Australia feel for the Australia Pavilion, it was very important that all the colours and the Ken Doan feeling come through it. So we treated it as art, not as a sign. And in those days the technology wasn't available, so they were literally handmade. They were, the drawings were put on the steel plate. They were cut by gas axes or gas torches rather than computerised cutting. But the uniqueness of it all was how we had to get the colours right, and how much trouble Ken Doan gave us to get the colours right as we're painting it.
And we've actually got a photo here of Ken Doan, and that's your brother, I
That's right, yeah,
understand.
he looked after the project,
Yeah.
He was the project manager.
And I will scan, and there will be at the end of this YouTube, this particular photograph and a few other photographs, so that people can get their mind around what we're actually discussing and get a reference point to it. So they're sculptures. I would have thought that the making of them is fairly basic sort of technology, so I don't think we could claim fame that they're uniquely made.
No.
But you were talking to me a little while ago, you were saying you always remember them being photographed.
Well, when anyone referred to Expo on the TV or in the newspapers, there was 2 things always. By day they shot the Australia graphics that are here now, the sculptures there, and by night they did the neon. So we had, that was the 2 main feature points. And I always sort of tied it together in later years as being the same as Matilda at the Commonwealth Games. That the first thing you remember of the Commonwealth Games in Queensland was Matilda, and I believe that the C is Stephen's Tower was that, and the monorail, I think, was the uniqueness of it. And just again, what was fairly unique about that, in those days you couldn't buy colours like that Ken Doan wanted in commercial colours that wouldn't fade in a lot of paints. We had a lot of droll paints in those days. So the majority of those colours had to be actually created by the paint manufacturers to get the brightness in them. And they're all clean pigments, and it was fairly unique to try and get those colours right and then get Ken Doan to approve it all looks willy-nilly, but all those stripes are in a certain place, all the dots are in a certain place.
I mean, he's an artist, so that
it is. It's a piece of artistry.
You'll see on the photo that he's dressed in a bright yellow shirt and a very all-setting jacket that does look very stylish, and I always remember during that period of time Ken Doan always struck a stylish pose. Now, in relation to the refurbishment of those signs, luckily, because of the fundamental basic nature of them, the manufacturer, you believe that restoring those physically wouldn't be that much of an issue?
No, I don't believe it would be a big deal. The main thing we'd have to revisit now is the new engineering codes to make sure that they now meet the engineering codes, and that would be dependent on where they are positioned if they get removed. but they're basic materials, so I don't think it'd be a big deal to repair them.
Now you drive past, I think, or have driven past several times those signs up there, and you'd be surprised to know that that's actually a cow paddock that they're now sitting in.
Oh, right.
So it's the big day today. So very, very, very excited for these to unveil and for everyone to see them here at the Caboolture Historical Village. And it's just so amazing. Everything's come along so well. And we'll go to class and walk past these awesome signs, and I just fell in love with their history. I didn't even know what Expo was, but I fell in love with it. I just did so much research, and I just love the whole fact how the world is joined together at South Bank. So last year, the plans for the Oval, so where the Australia signs are currently at, or they were currently at, we knew there was an Oval going there, and for years, like 3 years it was, the school had been trying to find someone that would take the signs, and no one would take the signs for about 2 or 3 years. So basically it came the day where I got told that if we don't find someone in the next couple of days, they're going to be going to the scrap heap. There's nothing the school could do about it.
No! Surely not, ladies and gentlemen.
So basically I could not see these signs going. They were iconic part of Australian history, and they needed to be saved, they needed to be restored. And I said that to that day, I said that to my teacher, that these signs are going to be saved, it's going to be my mission. So I think it was 11th or 12th of March, and I did everyone. I rang up heaps of places, you know, South Bank, the zoo, heaps of places, and no luck.
Wait, you rang South Bank and said, do you want the original Australia signs from World Expo 88, and they didn't want them?
No, not at all. So we put the post up on Facebook, I put it on my page, I put it up on heaps of community groups, you know, the local buy, stop, sell groups. I put it on Gumtree, I put them on all the World Expo 88 enthusiast groups. Then basically there was lots of interest. You know, I had people ringing up, you know, guy down the road or up the D-Bay Road, he wanted to put them in his front yard. So there was lots of cool interest. But a few weeks prior, actually, our class came here on a visit to the Historical Village, and it was my first time I was walking. I've seen the Expo 88 banner up there. I'm like, oh my goodness, these have got to go here. They need to come to the Historical Village. And when I put that post up, you know, I contacted heaps of organisations, heaps of places. You know, they just didn't want anything to do with it. They couldn't, you know, they just didn't want them. Anyway, by the time I had contacted the Caboolture Historical Village, these awesome people from the community, that couple, they had already contacted the village and they had made negotiations with me.
So these are the mystery donors, because I've tried to get them to take my phone call. I sent text messages, I've left pleading messages. You know, these are the heroes of the World Expo 88 signs. They could be walking amongst us, ladies and gentlemen, this morning, because I've never seen them. Do the donors want to out themselves right now? Everyone's looking at each other suspiciously now. There's a lady in a red hat. I don't know. Anyway, okay, so the donors get in touch. What happened then?
Yeah, so I think it was within 1 or 2 days that we had finally made the decision that they were coming here to up at the Caboolture Historical Village. So we were just all overwhelmed with all the staff at the school. We're very happy that, you know, they weren't going to the scrap heap, that we saved them, and we were just all very proud, you know, because it was my mission to save these signs. You know, I started this campaign, Save the Signs.
Ladies and gentlemen.
But the signs ended up in the middle of a cow paddock, which is the problem, because cows are indiscriminate. I mean, they don't look at the word Australia and think, you know, I shouldn't deface this. They just spray it everywhere. and so they really did suffer, and it's the urine and the feces that have just done the damage.
Okay, Peter, we're getting the picture now. You've painted it very well.
Yeah, thanks for that.
So they're not in the best of condition. They're up for sale at the moment.
Taking us back to the sounds of World Expo 88, believe it or not, Mike McHutchinson is the Caboolture Historical Village town crier, and he was also the town crier for Expo 88. Who remembers him?
It's my pleasure to welcome you in our language, and I hope that you will learn a word from me today.
Everybody, it's a great honour to be here to to speak with you and to welcome you all to the unveiling of Ken Doan's Amazing Australia sign, a really memorable part of all of our recollections of Expo 88. Can I start by acknowledging the attendance today of our former Lord Mayor of Brisbane, Sally Ann Atkinson, who was such an important part of the planning and delivery of Expo 88. It was an event recognised as a changing point in Brisbane's history. The passage of what was formerly known as a country town into a vibrant world-class city that we have today. A real coming of age for Brisbane. Before that time, people sometimes referred to Brisbane as a cultural desert. But looking at the city today, it's hard to understand that that description could ever have rung true. Can I acknowledge Ken and Judy Doan here today? Ken, you're so well known as one of Australia's preeminent artists, and I don't think it's overstating things to say that your sculptures were a real crowd favourite in 88, embedded in the memories of those who attended Expo. Today we'll recognise Ken's work from that day or from that event, and all of those people who have helped to make the restoration of those works a personal mission. Can I acknowledge everyone from Caboolture Historical Village who has made this a reality today? Can I acknowledge Eve for welcoming us so well? And also can I acknowledge Peter Racy for the heart and soul he puts into all things Expo. I come here bearing the good wishes but also the apology of our Prime Minister Scott Morrison, who very much wanted to be here today but wasn't able to because of other commitments. The restored signs are the result of so many people working with a passion to save a vibrant part of our history, a big part of our Queensland story. The artwork was produced specifically for Expo, and afterwards the signs languished on a plot of land at Deception Bay, a part of the Arethusa College. A student at that college, Kurt Jones, took it upon himself to find a new home for the signs. And that new home is right here at Caboolture Historical Village. All credit to Kurt, who had the energy and the imagination to make sure this beautiful artwork didn't end up as scrap. It's truly inspirational that he understood the historical importance of these works and the value in saving them. So all credit to you, Kurt. It's a sign you've got what it takes to be very successful. Critical in the rescue of the signs was the generosity of Jared Comerford and Storm Marshall, who bought the signs and donated them to the village. That generosity is one of those qualities, a real feature of what makes Australia as great as it is. So well done to you. Rodney Smith, the man who originally fabricated the letters, must be very proud that something he built for a specific event will now be on display for posterity and live on forever, and he can take great pride in them whenever he sees them. It's also to the credit of the current Lord Mayor, Graham Quirk, that he recognises the importance of the artwork from Expo 88 too. Today, 24 art installations make up the Expo 88 art trail, and the Brisbane City Council's vision will see this rise to 32. So if you love what you see today, you can make following that trail a part of your activities on another weekend. Future Expo artwork will be found in Biloela, in Longreach, in Kingaroy and Blackbutt, demonstrating that Expo 88 was not just a Brisbane-centric event, but one that was valued by all Queenslanders. Finally, can I...
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Look, I grew up in Maclean on the Clarence River, not so far south. You know, for me as a little boy, I used to think as Brisbane, that was the big city, because we visited a couple of times just after the war. I was born in 1940. When my father came back in 1945, we moved to Maclean on the Clarence River. And my father had a truck and he used to deliver various things. And I remember once we delivered some fish to the Brisbane fish markets. We went through Surfers Paradise. It was an intersection. That's all it was, an intersection with one set of lights, you know, and came up here to Brisbane, and it was, even to my mind then, a kind of small country town. And then Expo, Look, I was asked to do the outside of the Australian Pavilion by Ken Woolley. He's dead, unfortunately, now, but he designed the whole thing. And I remember I was just thinking then, because I hadn't thought about it for a long time, I was just thinking about the first meeting that I had with him. I knew him well, and he'd done some wonderful buildings in Sydney. How would we make something that symbolised all of Australia? Originally we thought, well, maybe we could do the outside of the building itself with various things, and then it became so complicated that we thought we'd simply do the word. And then in the word itself, we thought we would do two versions of that, the stacked version and the long version. Look, you often wonder where your paintings go. You know, when you do a picture and someone buys it and you think, well, I hope that they still love it. But for this, to come and see these again after 30 years, and for all of the people who've worked so hard to keep these letters and to have them here, I'm immensely touched, immensely. What else can I tell you? Look, we stayed last night in a very nice hotel beside South Bank, and I guess that's one of the benefits of the end of, and it's just that South Bank area is absolutely fantastic. Absolutely. I can tell you something else that happened with Expo. I was also asked to design the outside of the UNICEF pavilion, and that's why I've been involved, or we as a whole family have been involved with UNICEF since 1988. And that continues to remind me of two things: how optimistic Australia is, how fantastic it is to be Australia, and how tough it is on some kids in other parts of the world. When you go to see refugee camps and you see the hardships that are going through, and then you look at these kids down here and realise they are the recipient of the luck of living in the greatest country in the world. Thank you.
Hello, I'm John Hanley. I worked at Expo 88 and I'm up here at the Caboolture Historical Village to see the unveiling of these fantastic new signs.
And you're standing out of today's Fest House, John?
Absolutely, absolutely. Waiting for it to open to enjoy a quiet lemonade.
Thanks, John.